And today we're going to be doing some tuna sashimi appetizers and a little bit of ceviche as well. So the reason I'm doing a couple of things today is because we're going to be breaking down 1 full pound of tuna. It's a little bit easier to do this in parts. You can sometimes get a sushi cut of tuna at some of the Asian markets, but a lot of times this is the way it's going to come. So from a pound we can do a couple of different things, so that's what we're going to work on today. First thing I'd like to talk about, tuna is a sticky fish, so it's important to have a bowl of water close by, not only for your hands, but for your knife as well. It's going to get a much better cut if you can slide the blade through, so wiping your knife down and having water is important. As usual, I've got my sushi knife here. This is not absolutely mandatory. You can certainly use a very sharp regular kitchen knife. Do make sure it's sharpened. But if you do use a carbon steel sushi knife, they are right and left-handed. So let's get started. Oh, I'm also going to do a little bit of hamachi because I had some left over from a recipe yesterday. Alright, so we've got our tuna. I have one of the people at the Asian market that removes the skin and the blood vein prior to selling it, but not everybody does. So I guess the fact that I got the other guy is a good example. So that's the first thing I'm going to want to remove, is that blood line, that really dark color right in the eye. That's not edible, so let's just go ahead and get rid of that. And then I'm going to remove the skin as well. And again, I'm just going to have my blade kind of pointing down, and I'm just going to kind of work it and slide it back as I remove that skin. A tuna skin is really hard, so you're not going to cut through it. I don't know if that tells you anything, but at any rate. The next thing I'm going to want to do is at the bottom here, you can see there's a lot of like kind of white sinewy material. That again isn't your best meat to use for sushi slices, nigiri or sashimi. So I'm going to go and remove that as well. But this is still good usable meat, so I don't want to throw that away. In fact, you get some of your toro, your fattier tuna, in that material there. So set that aside. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to want to cut like right through the center, right through the eye of that tuna. And that's going to give me my nigiri sashimi size slice. Depending on how tall your tuna is, this was kind of closer to the head, so it's a little bit shorter, so I'm only going to get one. If you've got a taller piece, a bigger tuna, you might be able to even cut two layers through the tuna. Alright, so I'm going to do a couple different things with these 3 pieces. This one I'm going to sear for just some slices that we're going to do sashimi style. This, I'm going to scrape this meat out with a spoon and use it for spicy tuna. And this one I'm going to dice up, add lime juice to do a little bit of a ceviche style, and mix that with some avocado and cucumber. Normally I would probably use this for nigiri as well, like if I had a larger dinner, but since we're showing a few different things, I mean if you've got only a couple people, there's only so many slices of tuna you're going to want. For sashimi style, so let's go ahead and vary it slightly. So I'm dicing up my tuna, and I'm just going to put it in there. You always want to cut across the grain, so you're cutting across those more sinewy lines. But of course, at the top of a tuna, you're going to have a lot less than you will closer to the skin. So not as important, but just a good habit to get into. All right, so dice that up. Now for my lime juice, sticky tuna hands, I'm going to not use my sushi knife to cut limes. Use my regular kitchen knife. I'm a big fan of these little jobbies. I got this at Sur La Table. They come in really handy for any kind of juicing. Keeps the seeds out. I don't need to get a real good ceviche cook on this. I mean, I want the tuna to be mostly raw, so I just need about 1 lime for that small amount of tuna there. And I'm not gonna do it for a really long time. I mean, if I was doing a shellfish, I'd probably do this overnight and have a lot more lime juice. But as you can see, it is submerged in there, and I'm just gonna set that aside. Since I am doing, I'm gonna do a ceviche with the yellowtail as well, I'm gonna do the same thing. This was left over from a piece I cut yesterday. So I'm just gonna again dice this. I'm not too concerned about super pretty cuts, so if I go in with my regular knife, it's fine. My floor is always clean for about 20 minutes. Already dropping stuff. Okay. Got my fish cut up, and I'm going to do the same with the limes. Okay, the next thing I'm going to want to do with my tuna is I'm going to use this piece here. I suppose I didn't really have to cut the skin off, but because this I'm going to use a spoon to scrape the meat off of the kind of white sinewy material so I don't have that in my spicy tuna, which is what I'm going to make now. This incidentally is the same way we do our spicy tuna when on the sushi line in restaurants. Actually, when you're the new person, you get stuck as scraping tuna, as they call it, a lot. When you have to do a large amount of it, it gets kind of sticky and gross, but this small portion doesn't take too long. Not too horrible a job. Restaurants about using every part, and when you have this kind of thing, which is not easy to bite through, you got to find a way around it so you can utilize the good meat hidden inside. Okay, you see as I'm scraping here, this stuff is really hard, so that's the stuff I'm trying to avoid getting into my spicy tuna here. Okay, so I finished scraping my tuna, but I'm going to wait to mix in the other ingredients until I have seared off this piece of tuna, because when I have little cuts that aren't even for slices, I'm going to add them into the spicy tuna. Again, it's in restaurants how we utilize the entire fish. Tuna is expensive, you don't want to waste. So let's go ahead and season this tuna. I like to use, you can just use salt and pepper, but I like to use a little of this Tagarachi spice that you can get at Asian markets. It's a blended chili spice. Having a little heat in there just gives it more interest. You know, these days it's all about flavor layering, acidity, heat, creaminess, salty, sweet. You don't have to do every single one of those, but sweet with the salty, creamy with the acidity, and spice goes with everything, in my opinion. Okay, but I am going to put a little salt on there as well. Okay, now I'm just going to heat up my pan. If I were doing this on an aircraft, for those of you who are just watching sushi things, I also cook on planes, so that's why I'll mention that from time to time. But for those of you cooking at aircrafts, I just heat the pan in the oven and quickly sear it there. I probably 375. Put a tiny bit of vegetable oil, especially if you're on a plane, because it is less likely to smoke. Has a much higher smoking temperature, and we want to get this nice and hot because we're just going to just sear it on the exterior, keeping the interior raw and cool. Because this only takes a few seconds on each side, if you have heated your pan in the oven. You can either put the fish back in there and just turn it a couple of times, or take it out. You should have enough heat to get through. Okay. And you can do this with tongs too. I've long since lost feeling in my fingers with feet. Okay, just a little bit on each side. Just a few seconds, really. If you've got someone who's a little more sketched out by sushi, maybe someone who's just getting started eating raw fish, you can do a little bit longer, cook it just a tiny bit more. But for the most part, we're just wanting to get a nice light sear on that tuna, and our center is nice and cold. So that is it. All right, now I want to use my sushi knife. Oops, a little sticky. Wipe it down. You'll a lot of times at sushi restaurants see the chefs tap their knife on there. It's just because they're trying to get the water to run down the length of their blade so it doesn't stick to the rice or the fish. Okay. When you're cutting soft things like tomatoes, like fish, like even bacon, you're going to want to use the length of your blade. Don't push down. This is going to get a much cleaner cut. See, I've got my hands so that my fingers are totally out of the way. Takes some getting used to, because you're going to want to put more pressure or hold, or whatever, but that's really the best way to do it. Okay, so I've got my seared tuna sashimi all sliced, and now I've got a couple of these little loose pieces that didn't quite work for size-wise for a slice, so I'm just going to chop those up. And put them in with my spicy tuna. Okay. Now, in addition to the scraped tuna and spicy tuna, I'm going to put a couple of other ingredients in here. I'm going to add some more tagarachi. You can also add sriracha sauce for a spice. So personal taste, I like a little bit of the tagarachi there. And some masago. And a little bit of mayo. If you're not familiar with this, it's a mayonnaise you can buy at Asian markets, and it is made with rice vinegar instead of regular, so it gets a little bit of a rich flavor there. I'm not going to do too much. Spice and adding masago, those are both like personal taste. The mayonnaise, all I'm trying to do is get this to kind of stick together without, again, having too much of a mayonnaise flavor in it. Got a little heavy, even still. No more than like half a tablespoon. It's plenty. Okay, now let's put this dish together. I'm also going to add some avocado. I'm not going to use my sushi knife for an avocado. I'm going to use a regular knife. This one's a little stiff. Let's see if this one's softer. Okay. I'm going to want to slice through to the seed, and then I'm just going to spin this around so it cuts all the way through. Twist my two halves, pull apart. To remove the seed, tap. Oh, this is not quite as ripe as I want to. Tap and twist. And that's how you get your avocado. Now, I like to peel mine because you get that real bright green color on the exterior. Whereas if you scoop it out with a spoon, you might miss some of that. So visually, it's just really nice to have this nice peeled avocado. Now I'm just going to slice that. right, so I'm going to put this together. I've got a cookie cutter here that I'm just going to use to shape. I have some rice. I cooked this for sushi yesterday, but and you know, it has been treated with vinegar, it'll hold overnight. Best not to put it in the refrigerator. But you can also pick up some sushi rice just at a sushi restaurant or at Whole Foods. They'll pack up just the rice for you. So I'm trying to show how to do this without a full cooking of rice. I do have a sushi prep video if you're interested in learning the proper rice cooking technique at some point. So I'm just going to put this rice in here, about 1/2 inch thick. Okay. And then I'm going to add my spicy tuna on top. Okay, now there's a couple of things. Well, I'm going to do my seared tuna around the outside here. So what I'm just going to do is do like a slice of seared tuna, some avocado, and just kind of do that around the base here. Maybe a little further back because I do want to see that rice underneath. Probably got my avocados all going the same way. All right, one last good size slice of avocado there. All right, so that's looking good. Now let's add a little bit more flair. Let's see, we've got sriracha sauce. Okay, I can do a little dollop of that. And some green onion. I'm just going to want to slice this nice and thin. First. A little dollop of that on top. Okay. Now I would probably add some ponzu just around right before I was going to serve this. Here is our seared tuna and spicy tuna dish. Now let's add our ceviches. We'll mix up our ceviches and show the entire thing together. Okay, so we have our slightly drained fish. We've got our tuna and we've got our yellowtail. So I'm just going to add some things to this for our tuna. I'm going to dice up some avocado. We didn't use for our plating of the spicy tuna. That in, and then I'm going to, let's see, I think I'll do some cucumber. This is an English cucumber. It's got a better peel on the outside, but you're welcome to like peel it as well if you prefer that. But this is a little less firm, I guess. I'm just going to cut the seeds out. Those. Alright, so I've got my tuna, my avocado, cucumber mixed in there. And I'm just going to add a touch of sesame oil. Kind of temper the acidity from the lime. And you can also add some sesame seeds. Let's see, I have some black and white seeds. So that just kind of gives it a little flavor and a little more texture and color. Okay. We'll just scoop that into my individual little cups here. You can get all sorts of serving cups like this at, I think I got these at Bed Bath & Beyond. Gotta put those endless 20% off coupons to some use. Okay, and then another thing I like to add to the tuna is these wasabi peas. They just give it a little kick. But you don't want to add these, you want to add them right before service because you don't want them to get soggy. Right. And I'm probably going to drizzle that with a little bit of soy sauce as well. They do have soy sauce reductions, so if you want to have that kind of laying on the top, that's another option. Okay, and again, you could add some Masago for a touch of color to that. Now let's do yellowtail. Get that out of the way. For yellowtail, I think I'll do some mango. It's really creamy. I'm going to go with that sweet. I've shown a different way to cut mangoes in one of my fruit salad videos, where you'd remove the skin, but with this one, I'm just going to cut along the length of that seed, that big flat seed in the center, and then I'm going to slice. This is not the most quality mango. Mangoes are tricky. They are fabulous or not so much. They only have like 2 days of fabulous. But at any rate, you gotta be careful with this. You should get an extra ripe one because obviously you don't want to cut through to your hand. Maybe put a towel. But then as you peel it back, you have these mango pieces that you can just slice right out. Probably put a little avocado in here as well, but I might cut this a bit smaller. Because I've got fruit, I'm not going to do a soy sauce in here, I don't think. But you can add a little bit of salt. And the other thing I would possibly add is a shallot, or this is a, not a red onion, but a red caprini. Oh God, I totally drew a blank. I've never seen one before. But anyways, let's stick with shallots. Shallots would be good. And if I remember this, I will let you know. a little bit. I mean, you could use red onion as well, but I think shallot has a little bit milder flavor. I stick with that. But red onions are going to be your sweetest out of your regular onion family. All right, sprinkle that in there. Got some good color. And again, I'm just gonna divide it into my cups. Nice clear cups so you can see all the colors. And I might do probably a little bit more of the red onion on top for a little bit more color for presentation. And maybe some daikon sprouts, or I might do some lime zest. It's always pretty. I have a zester. Okay, and there you have it. Nice little sashimi, ceviche, seared tuna appetizer. For more videos and recipes, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or visit my website at sadiesquire.com.